So when this all happened, I was, well into the last trimester of the pregnancy, and, we were little more than a month away from having the baby. Well, no, I guess what happened on the night, and so the weekend after the night, Jeff was like, we need to move. We need to get out of here. And, I agree with him, but at the same time, when you're at the point in your pregnancy, you're starting to nest, meaning you are starting to get your house prepared to have the baby, and just mentally, everything in our house kind of getting to be in the right place, and, there were certain things that I was getting ready to do to prepare for, we're having the birth at home, so, we've been buying all these birthing supplies, so we've got, these 2 big bags full of supplies, like our birthing tub and a tarp and, all this stuff, and just to think about all of that being washed away and starting all over was just really stressful for me. And, but at the same time, it's like, well, we don't know how long we can't use water, and, so if we do stay, we're gonna stay, and we're basically not gonna be able to use our water. And if we move, we're gonna have to move an entire house, which we did in July because we found out that we were pregnant and we needed to get into a larger space. But we're gonna have to move all of our stuff and all of the baby stuff that we've accumulated over the past several months. So that was really just difficult for me to kind of cope and deal with, because it just kind of throws you out of your element and out of equilibrium. I mean, you try so hard to make everything as perfect as possible so that you can, go through with this plan, and it just turns everything upside down. It makes things felt very unstable and chaotic, and that is completely opposite of what you need at this time in a pregnancy. You need stability, and you need to feel like you're in a clean and safe environment, and we just don't feel like that. So, and Jeff was talking about, he's like, I think we need to go back to Minnesota. We can contact a midwife up there, and we'll just have the baby up there. We just need to up and leave. And, like I said, I agreed with him, but that was very terrifying. I was like, oh my gosh, if we do that, I'm not going to have health insurance, not going to have a job. I don't know if the midwife would be willing to take us so late in the pregnancy because, from what we understand, a lot of them don't. Plus, we'd be losing out on, or we would potentially be walking away from the thousands of dollars that we've paid our current midwife for our current birth plan. Now, we could always talk to our midwives and see if they'd be willing to negotiate with us, but ultimately, in the contract, they don't have to do that. And, as nice as they are running a business. And, so anyway, there's just a lot of factors that cause the environment to be stressful. That's not even counting it's all as a result of the chemical spill. It wasn't a direct impact. So right now, I'll get to where we're at right now in a little bit, but, in the week after, we went to a town called Montgomery, which is about halfway between Charleston and Fayetteville. We thought moving there would be a good fit for us because it's halfway between where we work during the week and what we do on the weekends, which is the whitewater rafting. They were not part of the affected area of the chemical spill, and it was a smaller town, and, we thought, well, maybe the, rent might be cheaper. The downside is that it would mean that I would be commuting a half hour every day to work, which I know that some people, that's what my short commute in D.C. used to be, and some people scoff at, oh, my God, you think a half hour is a long commute? But you do have to realize that right now, the time it takes me to leave my house and sit down at my office is 10 minutes. And when you look at that amount of time that, that's potentially an entire hour that I don't get to spend with my family. And especially when I know and have what I have now, I just, it's hard to go in the opposite direction when you have something like that. So that was really not something that I was looking forward to, but, the drive isn't horrible, and it was, for the sake of usable water, it wasn't too bad of a thing to wrap my head around. But the issue with Montgomery is that the one place that we did find to rent was $100 more than what we're currently paying, and definitely not the same quality of rental property. And I just was uncomfortable moving so far away and paying more for less. And there was another apartment that we looked at that was okay, and the rent was less, but it just wasn't the amount of space that we were looking for. And again, I just, it was, so that weekend we kind of were like, well, I don't know, should we feel like we're compromising quality. And, the other thing that still kind of overhangs is, how do we know that the quality of the water being provided in Montgomery or in Mount Carbon, which is the other area, how do we know that that water is any better than what we had before? Now, granted, it doesn't have this known chemical spill, but that area of West Virginia is pretty much part of the coal industry. And in part of the coal industry, they have these coal slurries that collect the runoff from the coal cleaning chemical agents, probably if not the exact same chemical that spills into the Elk River, something very similar. And not only that, it's been mixing with the coal, so it has this froth consistency to it, and we don't know what type of regulations there are or where that runoff is going or anything like that. So, I was one of the reasons that I was a little bit hesitant to move is because I felt like, we were jumping real fast, and really, this whole incident really makes you question the quality of your water regardless of where you go. What is sitting upstream? What is sitting nearby? Because the truth of the matter is that stuff, regardless of where you are, is running into the water. In fact, Jeff and I do whitewater rafting, and we found an article that talked about the top 10 most polluted rivers in the country, and the Mississippi was number 1. The Ohio River was number 2. The New River, which is the one that we raft on and the one that eventually turns into the Kanawha River, is the 3rd most polluted river in the country. And part of that is because I believe that there's heavy metals that run off a lot of ammunition plants that are kind of in the North Carolina, Virginia area, which is where the river starts. And, so I just really kind of questioned the quality of the water even in Montgomery. And so, we kind of were like, after thinking about and looking at the quality of housing, we went back to thinking about solutions that we could implement in Charleston that would make living at our current residence acceptable. Like, we'd be able to, some of the modifications that we would need to do with our lifestyle so that we could still stay in Charleston. So the next weekend we started looking at apartments in a different town called St. Albans, and St. Albans has water that they get. Well, some of the city is serviced by American Water, which was the contaminated water, and some of the city is serviced by the city, which gets its water from the Coal River. But again, it does bring up the question of, well, what is being washed into the Coal River? You know, you can only test for a chemical if you know what the chemical is. There isn't, you know, and I could be wrong on this because, again, I'm not a chemist. I don't think there's a magical test that says, oh, there's something in there that's not water. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you're testing for diseases, you've got to know what you're testing for, because that's what comes back positive or negative or gives you detectable levels, is you use some other type of thing to put in there to detect it. So, you know, the whole thing has made us more aware of where our water source is. So ultimately, the two places that we looked at in St. Albans were just, you know, again, we're like, unless we can find something much, you know, that's equivalent to what we currently have, we feel that what we're doing now is manageable. And we've been doing it since, you know, for almost a month now, and it's manageable. But I have to give Jeff so much credit because he's the one that's washing dishes. And, you know, we wash dishes maybe 2 or 3 times a week, would you say? Uh-huh. And we have a 4-gallon stock pot that he boils water, and then he dumps that into one of the sinks, and he washes the dishes and then dips them in the rinse water. And I did it once and was like, oh my God, this is a gigantic pain in the ass. And, you know, I just appreciate that he's been doing. And now you had asked earlier about our water collection, and we tried to look at